Well, Deputy, if you don't mind, would you go ahead and open us up in prayer? And some folks will hopefully come on soon.
Okay, you bet you, Kevin. Well, Sion to God, I hope everyone is having a blessed day. And, the weather has been truly Oklahoma weather here lately. But we have our Creator to thank for each and every day. And one thing to be mindful of is if He woke each of us up this morning, there's still work to be done. So if you will, just join me in prayer, please. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this day, Lord, and we thank you for this time of fellowship, Lord. We thank you of this time of a blessing, Lord, the blessings that we see and the blessings that we do not see, Lord. Help give us the wisdom that we need. Help give us the courage that we need to stay in your will, Lord. Fill our vessels with the fruit of your Spirit, Lord, and today, as many things may test our patience, help give us an extra measure of patience, Lord. Help always give us an extra measure of love that we can give freely to one another, Lord, and help us to find that way to understand where the other person is coming from, Lord. And most of all of these people, Lord, we understand how you love the least of these, Lord. So help us to remember those out there that are less fortunate than others. Help us to be praising and loving. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, Kevin.
Wado. Great. Appreciate that. I'm looking in. Donnie's coming on now, so just stand by with us a little bit. And the chief should be on soon, I believe. But while we're waiting for the chief, Deputy, do you have any words to share with us?
Oh, you bet. Thank you, Kevin. Well, again, thank you to all of our advisory members here. I appreciate your time and your attention to all things that are necessary for us to continue to prosper and ways to incorporate new ideas and things in our at-large communities. Some of the things that we've really been working on is how can we leverage more ways to increase scholarship dollars and different things to our Cherokee citizens, not only here in the reservation, but outside. And one of the best ways that we've been doing this is really connecting people with our Cherokee Nation Foundation, our 501c3 there that is under that umbrella, that it becomes such a valuable instrument in getting these scholarships out. I know that deadline has come. This is that time of year where we're filling out for many reference letters and different things. So if you do have at-large citizens that are needing recommendations and different things like that, please reach out to Kevin and them, and we most certainly, I help with quite a few. And if you can attach a resume with that, we that's one of the things that I really love to do, is to help people reach out and find a way to make things happen in their world. In other news, a lot of us are talking a lot about the language program. I hope our at-large communities have been excited about some of the new things that we've been wanting to do, excited about some opportunities out there to kind of go back and touch the past with the history course and different things. But one of the things that our immersion school here we've been talking about with our children is how can we plug these individuals into software development and design and coding and different things. So we've been working with Dr. Ken Evans out of the Oklahoma City University to help kind of renew some of our partnerships and our collaborations with Apple. And they've been so gracious so far that we've been training the trainers, kind of teaching the teachers how to do some of the most simple things in coding. Then that way we can pass that on down to the kids. And the idea here is to have these individuals grow up and be mindful of developing the applications that we will need for the future to teach the language and to get it out to everybody. And we're always just one invention away or one idea away for unlocking the next aha moment for people. So I think some of those things are very much of importance. We've been engaging with our federal agencies on just on the same level. I think a real high intensity level. I just got back last week from the Atlarge, or excuse me, not the Atlarge, but from Atlanta. And there at Atlanta, we were at the CDC headquarters and doing our tribal advisory role. Just happy to let everyone know that you be proud of the Cherokee Nation. Not only do we assume the role of the Oklahoma area delegation, but we also are I'm the sitting chair of that committee. So that allows us to get face-to-face time with the individuals that help make the decisions on where the funds go. And also too, I would help everybody to be mindful of we not only do we have representative areas of all the IHS areas, but we have delegation at large. And so that always puts me in the mindset of our at-large individuals. And I get to talk to tribal leaders from areas in California, and they understand that Cherokee Nation, we may not be from California, but we represent the largest portion of tribal citizens in that state. And so it's so important that we help those tribal leaders be mindful of that and how we can work together. So I got to spend a good hour with Dr. Walensky, and we're trying to help them shape, they call it their Moving Forward Initiative. And it's basically a reorganization of the CDC in its entirety. And the big piece of that for us is for them to come to tribes first. And when it comes to tribal dollars and tribal funding, and I know Delegate Teehee will talk about some of these things. And this is not the only tribal advisory committee where the Cherokee Nation has a big influence, but these are some of the important things that we're doing. And ultimately, just having open ears. And when I talk about the ears, I'm talking about the ears of our heart, because there's situations out everywhere that we go through. And if we listen with the ears of our heart, many, many times we will be able to see with the eyes of our heart the solution that's just in reach. So that's kind of an update for me. Hey, and to let everybody know, here in Oklahoma right now on your Cherokee Nation reservation, a lot of kids we're closing out basketball season. We're closing out speech and debate contests. And this is kind of the year of it's the part of the season for the livestock shows and the different things. And, everybody would be happy to know and pass this along to our brothers and sisters that are at large in your communities, that the Cherokee Nation is very well represented. The future is so bright because I get to see the talented, the youth, the teens, and the individuals that are starting college and just doing so many things in the name of just doing the right thing for the right reason. So with that, I'll say Wado and turn it back to you, Kevin. Thank you, sir.
Wado, Deputy. I would add that we had storms in the area last night, and the Cherokee Nation and the communities are pouring out to help those people that are affected by the storms. And so we're very happy about that. Next, let's we'll go ahead and allow Julia Coates, tribal counselor, speak. Julia, if you're ready.
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry to be late. I'm doing a training in Las Vegas today, and so we didn't break until right at 12 o'clock or 5 minutes after. I'm glad to be here. I don't really have a whole lot to add or anything. We're just trying to follow what the deputy chief was saying, and just very excited about many of the initiatives. I have stated this in a number of recent community meetings that I'm just could not be more thrilled about the level of engagement that is being extended to at-large citizens, and that at-large citizens are having increasing opportunities to participate in. So we met our first new patient advocate at the meeting in Florida last weekend. And so we're really, really excited to be seeing this taking off. As the deputy chief said, the language initiatives are of great excitement for everyone. And so just really, really happy with a lot of the work that CCO and the Cherokee Nation is doing for the at-large people these days. All right. Thank you.
Great. What do, Counselor? Great. And I will say that we've had great attendance at our at-large gatherings since we opened back up and started traveling again. That's echoed in this weekend at Florida, where we were expecting 150 or 200, and 448, I think, is the official number that showed up. So it's been fantastic. The chief has joined us now, so Principal Chief Hoskin, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and OCO, everyone. Sorry to be late. We had actually a groundbreaking on a new housing addition that we're building for Cherokees here in the capital city of Tahlequah, and so I just returned from that. Glad to listen in. The only thing I would note, and Kevin, if it hadn't been discussed, it's probably on the agenda or be otherwise discussed, is just the importance of those community impact grants. We know so many of the at-large organizations have applied, and I think many more are in process as we come up against that extended deadline of February the 28th. But that's the main thing I wanted to make note of. Otherwise, I'll just be glad to listen in, certainly answer any questions if anyone had any.
Okay, great. And yes, I know that all of the groups on the reservation, as well as at large, have been contacted multiple times, especially if they have not applied for that $25,000 community impact grant. And it's very open-ended what you can use that money for. And so we encourage, Donnie Squirrel and Kanan Duncan, who's our Senior Director of Community Engagement, is reaching out to those organizations at large that have not applied yet. And I think we're getting close to 100%, which is what we want, because that money is there for you to help your community and help your organization. And I will say that those funds can be used for surveys. And we've been working with the Kansas City Cherokee community, as well as the Georgia Cherokee Community Alliance, to come up with a survey to send out. And we're starting with those folks because they've inquired initially. And so we're trying to tweak that survey so that we can send it out on behalf of all the at-large organizations. So we're going to work off of that. And before I get too farther into the weeds, let's hear from Delegate Teehee. If I didn't lose her.
All right.
There we go.
Nope, you didn't lose me. I'm sorry, I just couldn't unmute myself. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I apologize. I am on the road, and I thought I'd be past this area with choppy reception. So Kevin, if at any time I sound choppy, please interrupt me, and I'll pause, because I should be on clear road shortly. But a quick federal update is that, as you know, there have been a switch in parties in the 118th Congress that began last month, with the Democrats controlling the Senate and the Republicans controlling the House, both bodies by small margins. Oklahoma's delegation is largely the same. Mark Wayne Mullen, who was the congressman and a Cherokee citizen of the district that Cherokee Nation's headquarters is in, he won Senator Inhofe's seat, so he is the senator from Oklahoma, who is the first Native American senator since Ben Nighthorse Campbell, so it's been some time. Importantly, he is on some committees that are significant to Cherokee Nation. One is he sits on the Armed Services Committee, which is good for us because that committee oversees the annual authorization of the National Defense Authorization Act, which authorizes government contracting for Native special procurement rules. In addition to that, he sits on Environmental Public Works and the Health Committee, which is the Health Education and Labor Committee, as well as the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. It is customary for the junior senator of Oklahoma to take a seat on the Indian Affairs Committee. So Langford became the senior senator from Oklahoma whenever Inhofe left, and then that made Mark Wayne put him in that position. Josh Burkeen, who is a Choctaw citizen, is the current member of Congress in the congressional district where Cherokee Nation's headquarters is located, and he was appointed to the Budget and Homeland Security committees. The Budget Committee is very important because it sets the funding levels for the committees that have jurisdiction over our areas. There are 4 Native Americans in the House, down from 6 from the 117th, but that's Tom Cole, Chickasaw citizen, Sharice Davids, who's the Ho-Chunk Nation citizen from Kansas, Mary Patola, who's Alaska Native from Alaska, and then of course Josh Burkeen, who I mentioned was Choctaw. The Senate side is pretty much the same in terms of leadership, and so the activity so far has been pretty slow. What you probably are hearing in the news is a lot of news about the debt limit, and this is important to us. Some of these national issues, you may think it doesn't impact us, but it can. And debt limit is certainly one of those areas that can. Essentially, the debt limit is what's considered a sort of a statutory cap on the total amount of money that the federal government is authorized to borrow to fulfill its financial obligations. And so that's why there's a need to lift the ceiling. The Democrats, essentially what it's coming down to, Democrats want to lift the debt limit so that the country can pay its bills. But the Republicans want to negotiate lifting of the debt limit, but they also want to put some fiscal constraints on appropriations for non-defense discretionary spending. That's the rub for us, because Indian tribes receive so much federal dollars that are considered discretionary spending. And some of the talk is that these discretionary programs that are non-defense related, which is most of our funding from the federal government, could be cut by as much as 25% if some of the proposals out there get considered and get serious consideration. So that, that would have damaging impact on our nation and nations across the country, in tribal nations, because of the amount of federal dollars that the tribes receive as part of their trust obligation to the Indian tribes. So just keep watching that, how it plays out. Fortunately, last year, when the waning days of the legislature of last session, Congress did approve several things that benefited Indian country. And one of those things included in this final omnibus, this final comprehensive package, was for the very first time to give advance appropriations to the Indian Health Service. So we know even if the discussion regarding debt limit does translate into a significant budget cut for discretionary programs, we know at least our tribal health dollars that we get from the federal government is protected for at least 2 fiscal years, and 23 and 24. So we know that's at least protected. So we continue to monitor this situation. We continue to talk about our needs to the appropriators when it comes to our priorities, but we continue to do all that. But I also want to stick on this, what happened last session, because we were able to get a bill that was important to us and important to Chief Hoskin and Deputy Chief Warner, which is we got the Durbin-Feeling Native American Languages Act across the finish line and got it signed into law. And this is, for those of you who may not be aware, Durbin-Feeling is who we call our modern day Sequoyah, the late Durbin-Feeling. And he did so much to help us plant the seed for continuing efforts to strengthen and preserve and protect our native languages. So what this law does is it will allow for the appropriate reviews to take place so that finally we can provide the necessary resources needed for tribes to continue their language preservation efforts. But in addition to that, there were about 17 other bills that were signed into law. That's the most that's been signed into law in about 2 years. So we patiently waited to get this bill through. But other bills that became law that's related to Native Americans include a law called the STOP Act that would stop the exporting of sacred Native items and increasing penalties. There was another law called the Respect Act that was an effort to comprehensively repeal about 11 outdated laws as well. So those are the things that were on the agenda. We continue to fight for seating Cherokee Nation's delegate. Chief Hoskin and I were in DC just last week for a couple of reasons. One is Farm Bill is up for reauthorization, and that's something that matters greatly to our citizens. And you know, and it was and during the COVID pandemic, we saw a great need, and we opened up a meat processing plant. All these things that we do, you know, have some authorization in federal law. And so this Farm Bill that authorizes those kinds of efforts, meat processing plant, and you know, making sure native foods, native appropriate foods are available in the food programs out of the Farm Bill continue to be authorized. And so we, you know, went to DC to advocate for our priorities in the Farm Bill. But in addition to that, fighting for the delegate. And so we met with Congressman Tom Cole, who's now the chairman of the authorizing committee, which is the House Rules Committee. And, you know, he urged us to continue to educate his caucus, especially about our treaty right. And so that's a mammoth undertaking, which we are proceeding with. And so you guys will continue to see this information in the news. We continue to have template letters that are available online. We're developing a new landing page for the delegates so we can keep more current, up-to-date information and have a page that's completely devoted, a landing page completely devoted to delegate. So we'll continue to urge our communities to send letters to their members of Congress, the Republican members especially in the House. And that's about all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions, Kevin.
Cynthia, do you or Patsy have questions at this time for council?
So my only question, Kim, is, you know, how can at-large communities continually support you other than letters? Is there anything else that we could be doing to help you? Well,
I think probably the biggest thing right now is McCarthy. You know, Speaker McCarthy. You know, he is somebody who has in the past issues, but he's been pretty silent on delegate. And so I think hearing from the California community especially, I think it would be very helpful. You know, we have an at-large meeting coming up in Bakersfield, and that's, you know, Kevin McCarthy's district. So we have some plans underway to see if there's a way we can engage with him while we're there. But I think especially just, you know, all the Republican members, but especially leadership, I think are key to this effort and educating this effort. And we're happy to provide you materials beyond a letter if you wanted to put like a packet together and to send to him. You know, that I think that would be very helpful.
Kim, this is Patsy. I have a question on the debt ceiling. Are there any particular points that we should make to representatives if there's really entertainment of making cuts?
I think that probably the biggest point is because we continue to make it is that, you know, the funding that flows to Indian tribes is considered discretionary. I'm sorry. Kevin, were you talking? Kevin?
I think you can go ahead, Kim. I don't.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm trying to remember what I was talking about. The debt ceiling. I think one of the critical things that we mentioned when we talk about debt ceiling is.
Go ahead.
Kevin.
Okay.
I think one of the critical things to remember whenever we talk about debt ceiling and whenever we're talking to a policymaker, a lawmaker, a legislator, is the fact that the money that flows to Indian country, you know, is that can you guys hear me? I'm sorry. I keep hearing.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can hear you. Kevin, I think maybe your mic keeps turning on, buddy.
Yes.
But yeah, so can you hear us, Kevin?
Sorry. Yep.
Okay. Yes. So Kim's given an answer to Patsy's question about the debt ceiling, and it kept, I think, your mic kept coming on. So go ahead, Kim.
Okay, sorry. So, Patsy, I think the most critical message is just to remind legislators that the funding that goes to Indian tribes is not, is discretionary dollars. But those dollars are critically important to Indian tribes. And the funding that flows to us is part of a legal obligation between the United States and Indian tribes. It's what we call the government to government trust relationship, right? And when the federal government fails to live up to its word and drastically reduces funds, then it hurts, what oftentimes are the poorest of the poor communities and the tribes. I mean, we're fortunate that we have some resources that we can draw upon, but I don't know that any tribe is going to, if 25% is the agreed upon amount, that's where our appropriations is going to get slashed, we're going to feel that dramatically, even if you've got resources to cover that, but it's also, in my opinion, it's also, a breach of that responsibility, that legal responsibility, even though we're classified in the category of non-defense discretionary programming, the members of a Congress need to see the human aspect of the decision-making there, that when that funding goes to tribes, that impacts the health, the welfare through public safety, housing. I'm thinking, hey, gosh, it's freezing outside here in Oklahoma. Can you imagine if we didn't have funding to heat, elders' homes because the federal dollars were not there? I mean, I don't see that happening in Cherokee Nation, but I think providing a human side of the story and the human impact is probably the most compelling way to address lawmakers when talking about how, these decisions that are being made about fiscal restraints when addressing the debt ceiling, could have, dire impacts on tribes, and that is in fact a breach of the trust responsibility between the tribes and the United States, and they need to be mindful of that responsibility when making decisions.
And Patsy, Kim's hit it on the head. The only thing I would add sometimes when I'm talking to people about, funding to tribes is tribes already start way behind the starting line in terms of where we ought to be in terms of congressional appropriations. And so healthcare facilities in Indian country, the United States is $1 billion behind on where we should be on building clinics and hospitals for tribes across the country. Now, we built our own at the Cherokee Nation. In fact, we've got a $400 million hospital underway that we're paying with our own dollars. And we've got a $35 million clinic in a little town called Salina, which some of you may be from, that we're building. Not all tribes are in our position. And so if the United States is $1 billion behind, and then we're going to cut healthcare construction, well, that's not justice, and it's not living up to those obligations that Kim described. And the other thing is operation funding for healthcare. In a good year, 60 cents on the dollar is where Congress lands, and that's not good enough. But if that's where we start, and we start talking about who's going to bear the brunt of cuts, well, it surely shouldn't be patients in Indian hospitals across the country.
Watto, that's very helpful, and I'll try to craft something and send out to my groups to encourage them to write to their congressman.
Thank you, and thank you so much for raising that, Patsy, because we are been advocating and communicating our own position. We will write a template letter to put on the on the civil engagement link as well.
Okay, that's what I'll do then. I'll tell them to look for a letter on the civic engagement page. That'd be better. Whatever.
You're welcome.
Great. Back to the community impact grants. Can answer any questions, Donnie, about the community impact grants? Donnie lives in the land of spotty service as well. So anyway, Donnie, if you get this, if you want to come on at any time, feel free to. anyway, continuing on, there were things that like donations to other organizations or people are not allowed on that community impact grant funding, but it's pretty wide open other than that, or me. All right. Let's see.
Hey, Kevin.
So the Cherokees at large. Yes. There's Donnie.
Yeah. So we did complete those calls to all of the at-large communities for that grant. Can you hear me? Okay. So I was a little bit surprised because I think we have, how many groups do we have now, Kevin? 25? And I thought I heard you say 27 recently. And about half hadn't applied for it. So we made the call.
25.
It's 25. Okay. I thought, I'm just trying to rack my brain. I'm like, who are the other two? But, and so, yeah, we had to make calls to about 12 people, 12 groups that hadn't applied. Actually, some had applied. And some had even been awarded, and one had even gotten the check. And so there were actually just 4 that were a little, confused or about the process, or and so that's not bad. And so we help them through the process, and they are going to apply. And so I'm like, it's very hard to come by a grant that's the app is only 2 pages. The second page is just a signature page, and it's for $25,000. And so I encourage them to just be, it asks the question, what have you done and what would you like to continue to do? How can these funds help you? So, the big things are raising funds for helping to raise funds for future events, to raise funds to help better support their participants if there's an emergency need, more cultural supplies and things like that. And so, and of course, increased membership. And so that was those were the main things I heard. And so I encourage people, put those things down, write it down, and get those submitted as quickly as possible. So it seems like it's working out.
Great, Donnie. We have spotty service out here, and so hopefully you can hear me better and more steadily now. I've switched to the Wi-Fi because the Wi-Fi comes in and out occasionally. So anyway, to continue on, yes.
Hey, I do want to add one thing to what you and Donnie have talked about as far as the community impact grants are concerned. So one thing that we'd like to make sure you guys know too is that these can be used to help increase your membership by sending out mailers for you. And if that means if you want to host a meeting for your group and your community, we can pull data for you to identify Cherokees in the area, provide you with that mailing list and create some mailers for you on your behalf and count that towards your community impact grant. And it's a really good way that you guys can increase membership, increase involvement, as well as just host more beneficial community events. So I just wanted to add that and make you guys aware.
Hi, Kanan, this is Patsy, and I'd like to ask a clarification. I understood you to say that you can provide the mailing list. It's been my understanding that Cherokee Nation could not do that. So if that's a change.
Yeah, so yes, I should have worded that different, Ms. Edgar. So what we could do is we can identify the folks in a targeted area for you, yes, and then mail out on your behalf. Okay. Yeah. Okay,
I understand that. That's the way it has been. I just wondered if there was a change.
Well, thank you for getting me to clarify. Thank you. And good to meet you.
To add just a little bit to what Kanan said, and I'm so glad he brought that up. This is like a rare opportunity I think for at-large organizations to do what effectively is your own outreach. It'll be under your own branding. Yeah, it'll come from the Cherokee Nation because we have the data and then we have to keep that secure. But I think it's a real opportunity to grow your membership by doing outreach that's not just outreach because we're bringing the photo ID crew out, but it's outreach because you guys are having an event that you want, branded the way you want. We just provide the outreach on your behalf.
That's great. Wado.
Great. So CherokeesAtlarge.org has, when you load it, should pop up the entire calendar year of at-large meetings. It won't have the location, but it'll have the date and time for those meetings. So I encourage everyone to go there first to see what we're doing, when, and where. With that,
Kevin, I think Councilor Coates has a question. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So this has been extended to the 28th of this month to the application. That's what I heard the other day. And is there a time frame within which it must be spent, or is it open-ended in that regard?
There's a date certain in 2024. I have to have my memory refreshed, but it's late in 2024, as I recall.
Okay, so about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I had one other thing. Is it possible to apply for lesser amounts, or is it only for the full amount? Because the fact that only half of the groups have applied for it, I kind of wonder if this isn't a really large amount for them to figure out what to do with it in 18 months or so. And if there was a possibility for, 15,000 or 10,000 or things like that.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion, and one that hadn't occurred to me, but we may want to message that, Kanan and Kevin, to the organizations that you don't have to hit 25,000, sort of bite off what you can chew, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And that's a good point, Counselor. And we are staying in contact with those folks that haven't applied these past 2 weeks for sure. They're probably going to get tired of hearing from us, but and we'll be sure and let them know that and work with them individually if we have to.
Okay. And the date, the deadline to turn everything in, all the receipts, is September the 30th of 2024. And that will go straight to the email address that is on that application, which is financial resources -COVID-19@cherokee.org. I will put that information on the at-large website as well. And I'll remind you that connection to Delegate Teehee's platform is also on CherokeesAtlarge.org. And I think that's on the homepage as well.
Yeah, and this is Donnie, and I just want to clarify, I misspoke earlier when I first said about half hadn't applied. And when we went through the list and called people, it was really only about 4 or 5 groups. And so there were groups on the list that actually had applied and had already received their letters, but we weren't sure. And because the information is going directly to the treasurer. And so we had to just, kind of get our list kind of together as well. And so there were only really about 4 or 5, and only a couple of those had concerns about like how that would work with taxes and that sort of thing. And so I just sent them back to Kevin on that one. So.
Yep. Okay, great.
Is the Oklahoma group being included as part of this? Because I know they've got kind of a in-between status with CCO.
Which group?
The COCA in Oklahoma City. Are they able to apply for this?
So the way we've done that is we have a separate grant program that's similar called Community Partners. And so we've had Tara Lee in our office reach out to Jay Hannah with that organization and make sure they can apply, and they'll effectively have the same opportunity. It just sort of keeps it in the right lane, so to speak.
Okay. All right. Next, the CCO conference will be in person. It will be actually hybrid. It will be in person June the 23rd and 24th, and follow that by June the 25th through the 22nd is cultural enrichment for the at-large organizations. If you recall, we CCO sponsors one representative from each board for at-large groups, and then the at-large citizens, others have the opportunity to self-pay to join the exercises. So if you have any questions about that, email me. Actually, email cco@cherokee.org, and Tammy will probably be the one that answers those emails regarding that.
So,
yes.
So our council is a mixture of citizens and non-citizens. Does the person that represents us have to be a citizen?
I'm not sure the answer to that. Let me look into that, and I will contact you back. Okay. All right. Great. So we have the pleasure of getting, with Delegate Teehee's support, Morgan Rodman, who's the executive director of the White House Council on Native American Affairs, and he's going to be our plenary speaker. So we're excited about that. The theme is going to be tribal sovereignty in the 21st century, and that's kind of a moving target these days. So I think it'll be a great conference. Again, it'll be hybrid. Those that are invited in person will be from our leadership boards, and then the other individuals can join remotely via Zoom. And so we're excited to get a lineup going for presenters and everything. So sponsor, yeah, I talked about that. You can also, as I think we mentioned earlier, you can use the community impact funds to send other board members to the conference if you'd like. We want to call on all organizations to work hard when we come to your area and set up your events to solicit veterans and elders to honor. We can do 2 vets and 1 elder per event, per organization. And it would be great if we had someone to honor every time. And I think that we can. It just takes extra work for sure. So we will reach out with you through Tammy. She'll make sure that you have the proper forms. And so we're looking forward to that. We'd also want each of the organizations to look for outdoor venues, indoors with precaution. And I say indoors with precaution because we're coming out of the pandemic, hopefully, and but we're still trying to do outdoors, because it's also a good Cherokee thing, right? But we want to, we've had to move indoors on a couple of events in the near future because of threat of severe weather severe weather. So it's important to note the electricity requirements. We don't require a lot of electricity, but we definitely have to have electricity close to our location, and also good cellular reception so that tribal IDs registration can work effectively. So some of you probably have heard that Abraham Bearpaw, who was formerly our Community and Culture Outreach Officer Coordinator, was went into business for himself. And so we wish him great luck. We have since moved Pam Bakke. She has been promoted into that position. Miss Bakke, who most of you know that traveled to the Atlarge functions. Miss Bakke was the queen of make and take for sure. And she knows a tremendous amount of history and technique on a lot of different crafts. So we're very pleased to have Pam with us. Also, Brad Wagnon soon will be heading to emergency management at Cherokee Nation. We're excited about that for Brad. We will dearly miss him. He still wants to travel to the Atlarge, so we're going to keep that in mind as well. Also, this year we've been using QR codes to register during the events, so that when someone comes up, they don't stand in a long line to hand sign a sign-in sheet, and that has been a big problem in the past. We've cured that with the QR code. You can do it on your smart device, and we have a couple of iPads there as well in case someone doesn't have a smart device, and you can fill it out. And it's a lot quicker and a lot more simple in that, if there are 10 people in your party, you can just select that there are 10 people in your party. You don't have to stand there and sign up every person. So, and it's worked out really well for us. What that also gives us the opportunity is that after an event is over, instead of us tearing the sheets off and your organization's trying to interpret someone's handwriting, we now will send it to you in an Excel spreadsheet. So it has names and addresses and phone numbers and emails and all that information. So that has worked out excellent for us this year, I think. And I think the groups that we've worked with are very excited to get that, because it's simple to turn around and solicit other new participants in your organization. And we're soliciting any types of changes or additions that your organizations might want for the events. So after the events, we have been reaching out to see what other things that your organizations might want or need for future events. And I'll say that, we miss Bruce and Wade today, so I'm sorry they can't be on. By the way, Deputy had to leave early and go into another meeting, so he apologizes. Cynthia Ruiz and Bruce West their terms were due to expire this year, but they're going to be renewed automatically for another 2 years. If you would honor us by continuing to serve, we would appreciate that. And so I don't currently have a meeting time or day for next meeting, and it will be near the conference. So we will reach out to you as soon as I find that date and time. Okay. And I realize that was a lot of information in a short period. This is being recorded. I will post it on the Atlarge website under our meeting minutes and in the next day or so. And so if anyone has any questions, they can email me. Yes, Cynthia.
So I do have a few questions that have come up. One is what people want to know if there is anywhere they can go to find the rules for Cherokee marbles. So that was a request that I got, and I couldn't find that answer to that, because normally when people request information, I just find it and send it to them. Couldn't find that anywhere. And then the other issue that has come up is at-large citizens are still not happy about the absentee ballots having to file twice. I know that Julia worked hard to eliminate the need to get it notarized, our absentee ballot, but people are not happy of the fact that they have to request one for the primary and general. So I just wanted to relay that information to you.
Okay. I don't know if anyone on here wants to address that. Yes, Julia.
I can address that. I think that if they don't have to request it twice. If they've received one for the general election, then they will automatically receive one for the runoff. So
okay, so we'll have to request it twice.
No.
Okay, so I think that was a misunderstanding. The information that went out, people thought they had to request one for the primary, one for the general.
No.
Okay.
There's no, yeah. The general and the runoff, there's only 2 elections. We don't have a primary system, but for the, yeah. No, if you request it once, that's it. You'll get a ballot all the way through.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's great. First Lady Hoskin would like to say hi to everyone.
Hello. That's all I wanted to say. Just say hi to y'all.
Hello.
Theo.
Well done. The answer to your stickball question or your marbles question is if you go to the CherokeesAtLarge.org and go to the Cherokee wherever we are tab, it has a lot of it has stickball and chunky and marbles, and as well as a lot of other downloads. So it's available at CherokeeAtLarge.org, Cherokee wherever we are. All right. Well, great. Like I say, that's all I have for the meeting. If anyone has anything, feel free to contact me. And I appreciate you guys bearing with me on working off my phone. So again, I'll post this soon on the Cherokees at Large website, this recording. So with that, I'll say no one else has anything. Dodago ha'i.
Wado.